We're going to start with firearms rules and recommendations. Okay, we have two firearms rules. It's a rule because it is followed at all times. That's on a controlled environment on the range and training, as well as on the street or in the real world when a situation arises that you need to use your firearm. The two safety rules that we have are always and never. Always know where your muzzle is pointed and point it there intentionally. All right? There's not always a perfectly safe position to point our firearm, but as long as we know where we are pointing it and doing it on purpose, then we are following the rule. The second is never. Never place your finger on the trigger unless you're intending or willing to press it. All right? We need to have a conscious awareness at all times of where our trigger finger is and when it is touching the trigger. With those two rules, we'll be as safe as possible in any kind of situation we find ourselves in. Next, we have three recommendations. Recommendations are followed whenever possible and as often as possible. First is check the condition of your weapon each and every time you handle it. Right? It's a recommendation because there are times when we can easily do so. One being before I start a shift, go out on the street. Before we leave our house with our family, if we're carrying a firearm, we can check the condition of our weapon, if it's loaded or unloaded, and functionality of the gun before we leave the house or go on the street. If we're in a situation where we have to use our firearm and I need to grab it, that is not a time where I'm able to check the condition. Right? So I am not able to follow it. That's why it's not a rule. Next, we have knowing what's in front, beyond, and around your target at all times. We want to have a safe backdrop for whatever we are shooting our firearm at, but it's not always possible to have a 100% knowledge of what is behind our target or around. A good example is in a hallway. If I have to use deadly physical force on someone who is in a hallway and there's a closed door behind, right? I do not have 100% certainty that it is safe behind that door, but I have to shoot anyways given the situation I'm in. That's why it is a recommendation. Lastly, we have never place your finger on the trigger until your sights are aligned on target. All right? We want to make sure with 100% certainty that my sights are on target and I would be firing in a safe direction. All right? So my finger does not touch the trigger until my sights are on target. There are situations in compressed environments where I might need to get my muzzle to the target and I might have to shoot before my sights are fully on target. All right? So it is a recommendation, not a rule, because there are certain situations you could find yourself in where you are not able to follow that recommendation. Okay, so just a quick recap on the firearm safety rules and recommendations. The two rules to be followed at all times, no matter what situation you're in. Always know where your muzzle is pointed and point it there intentionally. Second rule, never place your finger on the trigger unless you're intending or willing to press it. Next, we have the three recommendations. First recommendation, check the condition of your weapon each and every time you handle it. Second, we have know what's in front, beyond, and around your target at all times. And lastly, never place your finger on the trigger until your sights are aligned on target.